14, 14. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe podcast, a.k.a. the Pup List. This one you actually want to be on. So thank you for joining us. This is another video episode, so head over to YouTube to check that out. Otherwise, thanks for listening on the podcast version. I still got my NFL Draft Green Bay, Wisconsin hat on. I'm still repping it. Probably will milk this for a long time. But tonight, it's Wednesday, the 21st, 2025 of May. This is episode 314. We're a Packers fan podcast. I'd like to bring you topical and relevant Packers news, along with our most always humble, subjective opinions. I'm Tay, and joined on video, as always, is our MVVP.
Tay Ren, what up, Tay? How we doing on a Wednesday? It's clearly still April 1st here. April Fools, the weather's great, Tay. That's all I can say about that. In Northeast Wisconsin, it is absolutely awful weather-wise. But, hey, anytime we get to talk some Green Bay Packer football, NFL rule changes, it's always a good day with you on the Pup List.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's always one of those, you never talk about the weather because that's just lame and you don't have anything else to talk about. But if we would have had this as draft weather, it would have totally sucked. 2 days of solid rain and not even hitting the 60s. At least we had one great day on that Saturday with the sun, and it was tolerable on Thursday and Friday.
It was tolerable.
It's tolerable. So,
anyway. The pen is mightier than the sword, Tay. That's for everybody out there in, Pup-Liz land. So.
Well, if you look right up here where my finger's pointing, oh, what's that? It's the Holy Grail. That's why I look so young, of course.
Hey.
So, anyway.
I've had a few beverages out of that myself.
Yeah. Speaking of pens, I mean, I think everybody except... what is it, Brinson maybe, that has signed? I don't know. Or maybe it's Oliver. Oliver, the linebacker, hasn't signed.
No, Tay, it's the big Escalade is the last to be signed. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the old lineman, Tay. That's who we're waiting on.
So we've, last week we've kind of went through schedule release. That was the big, bookmark of the early preseason, but we're heading into that time where it's just preseason. The OTAs will start coming up.
They talk about phases. It's like phase 2, and then OTAs begin next week, and then it starts ramping up to minicamp, and then little Rob Domofsky off time. He gets like every year it gets condensed. Like, you have now 4 days off, and it's back to the NFL grind now. But it'll go fast from mid-June to late July, and we're right back at it.
Yeah. And I think what was it, during the Indianapolis event, the combine, that some of that league stuff happens, right? Or was that was the league meeting? That was actually the league meeting down in Florida, where they had the what do you call it? The amendments
that was
being introduced.
Pre-NFL draft.
Yeah, pre-NFL draft.
Yep.
And one of those big ones, there was the TushPush initiative to ban the TushPush. And then there was playoff reseeding, and what's the other one that I'm forgetting? Some other one.
You tell me, Tay.
Well, I'm relying on you, my co-host. So that happened, I guess. Like, at that time, it was like, well, no, we can't decide on this stuff, so we're pushing it off. Well, it pushed off was today, and they voted on some stuff. So we'll talk about that and our opinions on that, and maybe some relevancy to the Packers. But I guess let's start it off. Ren, the TushPush was officially put to vote. 32 teams, and I think a lot of this, we were early in this. Back to before the owners meeting, it was leaked or reported that the Packers were the one who put this forward,
The
and so a
initial
lot of the
proposal, yeah.
a lot of the fingers are pointed up north here at Green Bay, for good or for bad. But in the end, like, they obviously deferred the action on this until today. But so then it comes back around. Fingers start pointing north again, and a lot of the I guess blame could be put on the Packers pushing the tush forward. But I don't know. What do you make of, like, the Packers as a scapegoat for this? Because it's kind of unpopular, but we'll talk about the numbers and how they voted for it, so you can kind of, maybe I guess say that it was on the minds to ban it, or not on the minds of all NFL teams to do so. But I guess the public opinion kind of always said, like, "Oh, why are you doing this? This is ridiculous. Like, just stop it, right? Like, there's no need to ban this. Why are you doing this?"
And I think that was, much earlier, about 8 weeks ago, you and I talked about it. I think it was our sentiment. Like, hey, just stop it. I mean, it's football play at this point. Do your best. And the Packers have had some success against the Eagles on stopping the said tush push. So, but you want to lead me off, or you got anything to say about the tush push piece today in Minneapolis at the continued owners meetings?
Well, they voted to not ban it. They needed 3/4, 75% of the teams to do so. 22 were in favor of banning it. 10 were in favor of not banning it. They needed to get a threshold of 24 to
Correct.
actually ban it. So they were only 2 votes away from banning this thing. So that seems to me that there was a lot of teams that wanted to ban this, and I don't know what their reasons are. Obviously, we only get to kind of hear a lot of, like, public opinion on this, and we've got a lot of information, I guess, about how the Packers feel about this. But we all have information on how we know the Eagles feel about this. But I'm not sure where the other 21 teams voted to try to ban this, or at least change the rules as they sit now. So I don't know. I guess. I'm still on the fence here. I'm like, I don't really care. It just, like, stop it, right? Like, what's the big deal? There might be reasons to do it, but maybe change the language a little bit. But otherwise, do your diligence and stop this play, and go from there and see what happens. But 22-10, Ren, what do you make of it? Do you think the Packers are, I guess, rightfully blamed, or wrongly put in the spotlight for this?
I mean, Tay, I don't care if the tush push is there or it's not. I really don't. It was from the league inception until 2005, not an allowable play, and in the last 20 years has been. Sure, the Eagles are trolling the Packers with their win of the tush push proposal being shot down. The Packers did amend the proposal, but this whole thing comes back to, again, I tweeted about it. The Packers and the Packer fans are getting a lot of heat. We're a bunch of crybabies. Well, number one, 21 of the other teams, a majority of the league, also wants this, what they call a rugby scrum play, out of the league. They feel, hey, let's go back to previous to 05, when that was always the case. So most of modern NFL history, this was not an allowable play. It has become so, and really hasn't and didn't become such a thing until about 2017. So, interesting that the Eagles fans want to troll us. Good, bring it. I always hated the Eagles, Day. Prior to the tush push, it's always been in my top 5 hated teams, the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't care for the fans and the way they go about football, from the batteries back in the day to everything here forward. Philly is not a place I think I'd have my gear on and feeling pretty great about how I'm going in and out of that stadium. Whereas those Philly fans come to Green Bay, they're going to get a little shit, no doubt, but they're going to have a good experience. So I don't think the brotherly shove folks can say the same to us. Now, say this whole thing with the tush push. Also, per Pro Football Focus, Mike Florio, he's the man, the guy who runs that whole PFF thing, and he basically said, and others have basically led everybody else to believe that Mark Murphy, the guy with no F's to give, was asked by Roger Goodell to place this proposal forward because teams need to do so. And we're going to talk about that with the whole playoff reseeding. That was a whole Detroit Lions putting that out there so that the league could vote on it. And they were also asked to do so for playoff reseeding. So they also, on their part, gave the league a bone. So anyway, Mark Murphy, 0 F's to give, the way out. Goodell says, hey, let's get a team that'll agree to put the proposal down. You guys will take all the heat, but guess what? Mark doesn't care. He's doing his own thing. And the Green Bay Packers proposed that at the league meetings in Florida. And then it got re-voted on, obviously, today. Got shot down by a mere 2 votes. So it tells you most of these teams just, they don't want to have their name stamped to it, but are behind this. And we're going to see this come back around next year to be re-voted on. And my guess is they're pretty close to this thing being done as of the 2026 season. So Philly may have got a reprieve today, but again, I don't care either way. Just stop it. It's one of those things. You have an opportunity to stop them on 2nd down, on 3rd down, if it's getting to 4th down territory. Do your best. Don't give them that position where it can be 4th and inches, 3rd and inches, and they can do that. I'll always go back to that. It's still a football play. I'm not going to sit here and pout about it. There's no reason to. But at the same time, Philly being so bold about it on the socials, okay, they're bitter about it. I'm sure they're going to come to Green Bay on Monday night in early November and get ready to
push
see
the hell out
a
of us.
lot of tush push against the Packers and take it all out on them. And that
it's like 1st and 10. They're tush pushing to get a few yards. 2nd down, tush push.
And don't put it past him. Nick Sirianni's a pouty little boy. He's got an extension. We'll see how that goes. Maybe Nick's going to watch this and he's just going to get more and more just flamed up by me saying that about him. But again, I didn't care one way or the other. But it seems like, again, when you get 22-10, Tay, that is a vast majority of the league that says, yeah, let's get this done, and no more of this BS with pushing guys. And one of the biggest problems I've heard echoed over the last week is when teams line up for this, especially the Packers, they get called for being in the neutral zone, where the Eagles, for some reason, all these guys set up don't get called for this neutral zone infraction stuff. They're great at it at the moment, but we'll see if it bites them in the butt in 2025.
Well, a couple of things from your comments. Of course, they'll ask, Roger asks his good old friend, Mark Murphy, who just had a wonderful draft here in 2025. Like, hey, I'm scratching your back. Maybe you can scratch mine a little bit, and you're going to be gone in 2 months anyway. So you're going to be sipping margaritas on the beach. Can you just do me a favor here and just put this one forward, take one for the team? Although I think it's still kind of, all Packers, get the brunt of it, not just Mark Murphy. But unless he was like, it was my idea, comes out with the press conference. But I think when you try to break it down to football rules and plays, you are snapping the ball to a person that's being shoved and pushed from behind. It's not a quarterback sneak. Quarterback sneak is usually fall forward, no pushing from behind. You actually have a chance to stop that man with the ball. When you push from behind 2 people plus, that's why it's difficult, and it's hard to stop. Now, if you had to if there was I could see them like no more quarterback sneaks. You have to hand the ball off, or at least make 2 or 3 steps in any direction, and then you can run past the line of scrimmage. And they could make the rule too, like I think linemen can shove, running backs after the line of scrimmage when they're downfield. They can push, forward to the line of gain. That's fine too. So if you start breaking it down into football actions and moves, and maybe go to the rule book. Yeah, since 2005, this has been allowed, but if you kind of zoom out, look from the overhead, maybe this doesn't align with what you think football is. And maybe that's where some of these people are coming from, and not just being like, well, no, it's not working for us. It's only working for a handful of teams. And so we want to do away with it. So I think you're right. The trend is next year, it's probably going to be over 22 teams, and we're going to see this bye. And then you try to be
Excuse me,
use it as a variation.
That should be early 90s. Bye.
There we go. No, Ren, I'm sorry. We don't do that on the show.
Sorry for that, universe. It was there. For the tape.
Tush Push still going on now. I don't know. I guess all these votes get the 75%. In favor of majority, 75% majority. I guess I didn't really realize that. I wasn't paying attention enough to know that was the case. So that's a lot of teams, 24 out of 32.
Yep.
So I guess that's what you need when you are changing the rules that everyone has to play with. So
let me just go off on a tangent here, Tay.
Yeah.
Should there be a rule proposal for less than 75%, maybe 2/3? Next year they can hit. We need 2/3 of the teams to approve a proposal. How about that? How about that to blow everybody's mind? That should be a proposal next season, I think.
Presented by Ed Policy of the Green Bay Packers. A new policy change. Anyway,
you got it, sir.
So I think, for now we're done talking about the Tush Push. There's, it's definitely polarizing, and I think it's interesting that one play can do that, and obviously it's based on the success of primarily one team that has done it, and
primarily, yep.
Used
Buffalo's
it
pretty damn good about it too. So
yep, and it worked for us once or something.
Tucker Kraft actually had a 81% conversion percentage on his pushes today. Mark Murphy would be very. As you put that, Tay, I don't know if I need to hear that take. You come up with a better one than that again. But yes, according to Mark, they're doing pretty well with regard to their own version of said Tush Push, just not with their quarterback.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, Jalen Hurts is a athletic, bulky guy, and he kind of became the man. He was doing well for them, and then he became the man. And I don't know, does that diminish when you have a quarterback that you don't want to see hurt over time? He's young. He's as old as in his same draft class as Jordan Love.
Yep.
But when you get paid and he's the guy and the whole team kind of revolves around you, do you still do that to your quarterback? But I digress. That's the Tush Push situation now, and we'll probably see more Tush later. The other one was the playoff format changing. Did this one get passed, Ren?
No, this one got pulled off the table. Detroit, as we know, they retracted their proposal from the earlier spring meeting, and so that will be shelved till next year. Their proposal itself, Tay, was the way it should be, in my opinion, and that is simply reseeding by record. Every team that does win their division, obviously gets a playoff spot, but they seed it by end of season record, and then the whole thing flows down from there. Because it is true, there's no reason, the Minnesota Vikings this year should be, traveling to what ended up being Arizona to play the Rams. I had teams like, what was it? Was it the Falcons? I can't remember. The NFC South team, the Buccaneers. It was the Buccaneers. They should have been traveling for their playoff game. They won a division, and yet they got to host a home game, and that's just not right when they're teams with 2 to 3 to 4 wins above them. That's not the way that should work. So I expect this to come back around. But Detroit, pulled their proposal, and that one will sit another year.
If this proposal went through, it's possible that some division winners don't get to play a wild card round at home. Do you agree with that? If
100%, you get the playoff You get the playoff seeding, you make it. But Tay, if you're 10-7 and there are three teams in a division that are 13-4, 12-5, 11-6, you know what? Do better, play better. You're in the playoffs. You won your division. You got that automatic bid. But yeah, you're going to go travel for it, and you might get beat. So.
Another thing to point out would be, like, if like the Lions had the best record and the Vikings had the next best record, they could be
which they
1
both
and
did.
2. They could be 1 and 2, and that's
inevitably
seed 1 and seed 2, and then you could essentially get in the same division. You could get 2 buys, or at least not 2 buys, but 1 buy, and then you guarantee that that second seed would get a home game.
And you almost feel like 1 and 2 there. Likely, one of those teams is going to have the NFC Championship go through a North stadium. So, yeah, I think it's fair, Ted. I think it's completely fair. I don't see any issue with it. That's how it's done in many leagues. I think the NFL is ready for it. What are your ending thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that too. There's always a division in football, whether it's AFC or NFC, that seems to stink, right? They suck, and then you're like, second half of the season, you're looking at that division thinking, God, one of these teams is going to go to the playoffs. One of these teams is going to have a home game. Like, it kind of doesn't seem fair. Example last year with the NFC North, it's like we had a really good division, and now you're penalizing teams for doing good sort of in the playoffs because it just doesn't make sense, and it's not necessarily fair. So I like this change. I think it makes total sense. You should be playing the best teams, and the best teams should be kind of, fairly put into a bracket. And if you get the second best record in your division and potentially second best record in your conference, you should have a home game. You should be rewarded for that. And right now it's not. So that's why I like the change. I think it will happen.
And think about this, Tay, and there will be the case. Obviously 17-game season now, but a team wins their division 9-8, and there's a 12-5, essentially wild card team from another division. A team that won that many more games, they should have to go travel to see you when you just eked it out. I don't think that's fair, and they won a whole 6 more games, and it's not 6 more, but they won a whole 3 more games than you did. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Mm-hmm. The third thing we were going to talk about, which I didn't name at the beginning, was it was announced that the NFL is allowing players from the NFL to participate in the 2028 Olympics for flag football. And I think Brian was one of them. At least that's what I saw. Brian Gutekunst was like, I don't really like this. And I think a lot of GMs, coaches, owners are probably in the same boat. We don't like this. We don't want our players to be injured unnecessarily. That's why we have all these rules in place during the off season. That's why we don't play our players in preseason sometimes. That's why we sit players at the end of the year for already guaranteed playoffs. So this is why they do that. And to go off game capacity to play something and potentially get injured just doesn't seem right to some of the upper management in the NFL. I guess what did you make of this when you heard this, and what are your opinions on this, Ren?
Honestly, Tay, if there's a guy on my team that wants to go play flag football for the Olympics, I'm not feeling great about it. To be honest, I don't want him to do it at all. Like, why risk it? Clearly, obviously, it's non-contact, but I mean, we see Achilles, MCL, ACL, PCL injuries all occur non-contact. Like, no thanks. And I don't know how GMs are going to do that. And then you think about the contract language as they are running ready contracts in the future and how much that complicates it. I see it as like, dude, how about guys that have just retired or been out of the league a few years and are like, dude, I get to play some more football and go play in the Olympics and I'm still in shape. I think this is the perfect kind of thing for, super fans like us that love, obviously, guys from our team and other guys around the NFL. Just think about Aaron Rodgers being retired in a year likely, and in a couple of years he's like, you know what? I want to go be the quarterback of a flag football team in the Olympics. That'd be fun, right? Like it doesn't affect his team, doesn't do anything like that, or if this occurred years ago, like a Dan Marino or anybody else is retired, yeah, it'd be fun. It's interesting, but outside of we get our guy, Tremont Williams. He's like, I'm gonna go ball out and play some DB and the flag football Olympics. That's awesome, and they could probably play really well. I mean, they're still in good shape. But I don't see this thing as a thing for NFL players. I understand there will be some desire to obviously win a gold medal and have that forever, something you hang on your wall. But yeah, this is going to definitely be written into contracts, etc. And I'm not for anybody on my football team risking injury in the middle of summer where they don't need to playing flag football.
Yeah, I know. I hear that 100% about the injury thing and not wanting your team, your players to get injured in some other sport. But I'll play devil's advocate a minute here, Red. I mean, if you're on an NFL team that maybe it's closer to your end of your career, you're gonna but you're still participating, you still have it under contract, all that stuff, and maybe the playoffs, the Super Bowl is not attainable for you. You don't see it. Like there's only one team that wins the Super Bowl every year. That's not a lot. And what could be, forever, that was the pinnacle. Super Bowl champion. That's what you want. You hang a banner, you get a ring, it's etched in stone forever. You are on top, at least for 1 year. This is Olympic gold medal to people, I think, is up there in attainment for a goal in life. And if you can have a gold medal around your neck for an Olympic sport, that's huge for people, and that's huge for the world. So to go to I guess to say no, you can't go compete for this country in the World Olympics for a sport that you could win at, I just don't. You can't take that away from people, and if they want to do it, they should be able to, because that could be a dream that they're not fulfilling with the Super Bowl run. So I agree with you. They're gonna figure this out in the contract. Like they'll say in the contract, you can't do this. If you do this and you get injured, you're gonna have a super diminished payout or contract after that. There's gonna be some penalty for that. But I guess if they come out unscathed, then no harm, no foul. They can play. But I don't know. I guess to deny the opportunity to be in the Olympics at a sport that you love and grew up doing and put your life's work into, to say no to that from a administrative level is a little hard for me to swallow. To do that to young men and potentially young women. Hopefully there's all sorts of different variations of the sport out there.
And I believe there are when it comes to women flag football in the Olympics as well. But the other part I'd like to point out, Tay, is, and I saw little blurbs with this, on the socials as well. Listen, there are professional flag football players already. It's a completely different game. This is not the same game. And NFL players that think they can just, play flag football the way it is expected to be played in this format without really some, attention to detail. It's not just like, hey, I'm a all pro NFL player that I go in and I'm, the most successful flag football player in the Olympics, because it is a different game. The way they run this, how many guys play on and gals on each side of the football is different. So I don't understand enough to talk to all that at this point, but I know most NFL players don't either, Tay. That's the thing. This is not just some, they play in the NFL automatically
will be good.
Great at this and it's worthwhile pursuing. I think, a lot of these guys, if they have any of them, when they heard this today, have inklings of like, I'd like to do that, I think they're going to need to put a lot of research into it and understand how that thing works in and of itself. I know the NFL approved this thing, Tay, mainly because it's about growing the game of football, being ambassadors of growing the game of football. And the more people that see this on a world stage, the better it is for the game of football and the NFL. So why would they not say yes to that? However, it comes with a ton of implications, like we were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It doesn't necessarily translate that they're great at American football, and they will translate into awesome flag football players. But you see athletic guys out there, and maybe they can. I'm sure they'll have tryouts. They'll have some tests for these players, and they're not going to just sign you up and you're going to be on the dream team, right? And they could maybe look to that too. Look to the basketball, look to the NBA, and see what they've done before. See what's happened with that. Were there
A
any
lot of
injuries?
failures. They great, very successful early on, but the third, fourth, fifth, sixth iterations of the dream team were not nearly as good or effective. In fact, one or two of those didn't medal at all.
Yeah.
That tells you how much that changed, and how much, again, the reason the NFL is putting their stamp behind this, how much, with regard to the NBA, the international game grew and got to be, hey, we'll take you on, America, and we'll win. And they have.
Yeah. And there's tons of angles to this. Are all the best players from the NFL, playing in the flag football league, and are they getting to the top of that the upper echelon of teams? It's like, will that happen? Will players from the NFL just stay away because they don't want to risk it? Players at the end of their careers don't want to risk injury, and they're like, no, I'm not doing that. So you have a lot of things, and this is gonna be fun to watch, but. In the end, Ren, I kind of want to watch the Olympics and see some NFL guys on the field. Like, I'm not the only one.
Former NFL guys on the field.
Yeah. Okay.
If Ice Cube's had a summer league for retired basketball players, a 3-on-3 kind of format for the last many years now. It's been somewhat successful. And you know what? You get to see some of our favorites that are no longer in the NFL doing this, but they're still, again, they're athletes. They like to compete out there. I think that could be a very successful environment for folks like that. Whether or not they're guys that retired when they were 30 or 35 or 28, but guys that are no longer in the game. I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah, you're right. That would sound fun. Who was the guy from Indianapolis that retired early? Guys like that.
The quarterback.
Yeah, Andrew Luck. It's like, bring him, get him out of the woodwork, and maybe guys like that would be like, yeah, I'll do that, and maybe they're still good at that. I don't know, but it's interesting. But I'm excited. That's it's 3 years away, and like I said, it'd be nice to see some familiar faces, and maybe a Packer or two. Maybe you see D Wicks out there catching some balls. Maybe that's this opportunity for Aaron and Devontae to get back together again.
There you go. The final connections at the Olympics for the gold. Tay. There you
go. But that about does it for the meeting. Do you have any other comments about the meeting, Ren? Did anything else happen that caught your eye?
Apparently, one of the anecdotes I did hear, they'll be allowed to go ahead and onside kick at any portion of the game now. And that onside kick will be moved back to the 34-yard line, Tay, by 1 yard. So it gives a slight bit of extra time or distance. I'm not quite sure how they're figuring this. That'll take it from, as others have said, 5, 6, 7% to maybe 10. We'll see. But they made a tweak to hopefully make the onside, the ability to possess the ball, possession to possession, a little bit easier. Yeah. That kind of thing. So.
And then they still have to call it out, right? They still have to acknowledge, hey,
it would still be acknowledged. It would still be, yes. You would definitely be not tricking the other team with regard to the onside kick.
I miss that, honestly. I do.
I do too. I think now that they're back to it, just,
I wish, I guess to me, the best of both worlds is do the safety thing where you have to all line up together and you can't move until you're kicked and have the other players there too. Whatever you want to do to avoid super collisions, but at least do it when you trying to catch them off guard, because football is about discipline, a lot of it. And it's like, and coaching and trying to catch the players off balance. That's what your whole defense and offensive strategy is try to get the other player, other teams off balance and catch them off guard. So why take that away? And maybe just, wrap that up in your little safety measures with the alignments and stuff and how far they are off the ball and away from each other. But that would be awesome to me is anytime in the game you want to do it, you can do it. You don't have to call it. Just, you have to set up the same way as everybody else. So, I don't know. So maybe some year, maybe they'll do that in flag football and I'll watch that more.
Well, the reality is too, with the onside kicks, how many of those do we really get a year?
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to be
because they're afraid now.
30. Nobody does anymore.
No.
It's a fun play, and listen, there's always going to be an element of injury in football. There always is going to be. That's just the game. I mean, if you're a defensive offensive lineman, you're taking little collisions every game, a whole game long. Are they going to somehow rule that out of football, Tay? I mean, again, there's an element to football that is football, and it should be, personally.
Yep. All right, Ren. Well, let's get out of here. It's a little bit over 35 minutes for this episode. I think we talked enough, but I would like to hear from you guys what Packer Universe thinks of all this stuff. You can hit us up on our socials, send an email over, info@packeruniverse.com, or message in the comments here on YouTube. You can do it all, but we'd like to see you chime in if possible, if you got any comments for us. Ren, thanks for joining me on this Wednesday. We got more content coming up in this off-season portion. OTAs start next week. That'll be interesting to see what's going on. And maybe after that or during that period, we can ourselves kind of maybe predict who we think will make the roster in each position. I think some of these roster positions are filled with question marks, and a lot of guys coming in now with the draft. I think it brings up a lot of questions on maybe who will be left out and whether this team has no excuses left or what will happen with them. I'd love to get your take on that. So join us in the next few weeks for that. And you can look forward to our humble, subjective opinions.
Tay, I know ending the show is not your forte, Tay, but until episode 315, Tay, on the pup list.